What's happening, good people? So I'm here to chat about this freaking incredible day that I had. Got some water back here. Go ahead and get that. I just finished eating. Anyway. Recently, I have acquired two 300-watt Hyundai. I saw a commercial that was like rhymes with Sunday. Two 300-watt Hyundai panels, and they're all going into separate power stations. They join my 320-watt Renogy panel. And I had already, before those panels, if I had 2 days of solar back to back, I was essentially swimming in it. I'm sorry, excuse me. I'm really swimming in power now. And I have been consistently getting single digit power usage days. Now we're going to dive into not my bill itself, but the company that I'm with provides like some graphs and things that gives me some visuals about how much power I use. I can go into it by the hour. I believe that's how granular it gets. There's a 2-day delay on it, so that's unfortunate. I can't like look at yesterday's. I have to have. So what I do sometimes is I'll take notes. I don't do this often, but I'll take notes on the type of day that I had. So if like we were out of the house that day, I'll make a note about it. I only did this like 5 times. So it's not something that I typically do a lot. But in my mind, I want to do it more often. But because it's a 2-day delay, I kind of have a pretty good idea of what was going on that day, whether or not I had to go to work that day, whether or not the weather was really good that day or it was overcast or whatever. Now, let's kind of level set here. Typically, we average about, and let me make a note because something I want to talk about. We average about, let's say, 18 kilowatt hours a day of power. And since getting into solar and having like a few 200-watt solar panels or whatever, I guess it kind of gradually went down. Like when I first got into solar, I would see like, okay, I went from 18 down to like 15, 16. And I would kind of have that little gradual dip. And then I started to get down into like the 14s, 13s. And then typically where I've been living at over the last, I would say, summer or so, going back to another summer in like a few months, I would typically live at about 12 watts, 12 kilowatt hours. That was before I feel like I got like the AC 200p, before I got like the Alcatel. I had like the EB 120, and I was living in a balance between like the EB 120 was my bigger power station, and secondary was probably the EB70, which used to live right here in this zone, powering this for the longest time. That's been my like tried and true until I put the Ace Volt here. So we're looking at about 12 kilowatt hour days. Then I was excited. I may have even made a post about it. I got down to about like 8 kilowatt hours for a day. Now, another thing is my power cost about, let's just say it's 20 cents a kilowatt. I think I'm rounding up, but it's realistically, I think it's 8 for the supply, 8 cents a kilowatt. And then it's like 8 or 9 cents for the delivery. In PA or Western PA, we have the ability to choose our supplier. So I'm going with like a green supplier. I don't know whether they're lined or not, but they're saying that they produce power from renewable energy like solar. So that's cool. It's good for the environment. I'm not a big like environment guy. I mean, the climate and the stuff that's going on outside of like the seemingly political agenda of Democrats to act, and then the seemingly like the blatantly political agenda of Republicans to like push back against that counterbalance is way out of whack. But outside of the political stuff, I mean, I watch quite a few Alaska shows, just observing from that standpoint. I watch like Life Below Zero, Alaska's Last Frontier, What else do I watch? I watched The New Generation and all that jazz. And basically, these people who live in places that count on like synergy in the seasons, they all are like, bruh, something is weird. And it's been getting really weird. And I'm sure you guys notice it in your weather patterns, things kind of happening that are not. But anyway, I'm saying I'm not like a big climate like green and all that jazz, but I am mindful that there seems to be some things going on, especially in the States, that feel tied to something. So we'll just leave it there. Now, um, so they claim to be a proponent of using like renewable sources to provide more power. So I'm looking at about 20 cents a kilowatt, probably like 18, 17 realistically. Because they'll say like, yeah, it's 8 cents, but it's like 8.99 something or another. So okay, cool. Now I think it's 2 days delay on my bill, but my latest day is a 3 kilowatt usage day. Now I want to show you something in a bit. Let me see what you guys are talking about first, and then we'll get into so 3 kilowatt day. I'm crying foul if anyone in my household used that much energy in a week, if not for my 12-volt mini fridge. Can you explain that to me? 3 kilowatts. You don't use that much power in a week? That's crazy. And you have more than one person in your home? I do business with chickens, lights out at sunset on a sunrise. Oh, really? Interesting. What's up, Nathan? Good to see you, sir. Hey, what's happening, man? I appreciate you being active on the channel lately. I've been enjoying reading your comments. I actually just closed the tab of yours just now when I was preparing for the live. I wanted to get some of my Chrome resources back down because, Chrome is a memory hog. It started out being one of the better joints, and then it just kind of turned into Internet Explorer. But I closed one of your tabs. I got to go back to your channel and kind of watch a couple videos that piqued my interest. Now, Electron Zap. Am I reading that right? Okay, electronzap.com. It's a channel that kind of does testing and things like that. And he's kind of getting into power stations. He's bought like a couple budget friendly joints, but he'll be like looking at resistors and capacitors and stuff like that. If you want to, sir, or ma'am, I imagine, sir, because, that's just how stereotypes work and generalities work. If you want to drop a quick description down in the comments of what your channel is about, I'll be sure to, read it out over the live just to kind of get people familiar with your content. Look at you, all handsome and stuff. Why, thank you, Gosling lady. That's my wife, by the way. So I had this 3 kilowatt hour day. I wanted to jump into that. So let me grab the browser that I use for that. I use compartmentalized browsers. So I only do Facebook and Edge because I'm weird like that. I've talked about that many times in the live streams. I like to segment out stuff so that there's no leakage between like Facebook seeing what I'm doing and then they start showing me ads and all that jazz. I'm not into that. So how can I do this? All right, we got that. And then we got some notes here. Bring my notes back over here just to show you guys what's going on. I've been just a quick, bit of information. I've been really like struggling to keep up with the power that's coming in because it's a lot. I mean, it's a lot of power coming in. And it's an exciting time, but trying to manage things. I mentioned at some point, I think on the last live stream, I gave away the bull bat. Someone won it. You need to go back to the comments to see who won it. I commented under that person and I heart them. And what I typically do when someone wins a device is I don't reply to anybody else until the person confirms. But that person did win it. They need to kind of get at me. I did pick a secondary person in case this person doesn't respond. I may give them another week or so and then give it to the secondary person. But, I never expressed that in the rules. But I think I will start expressing that. Like I'll give you like about a week to respond. And the reason why is because I didn't say when I would pick a winner. So if you're not on YouTube all the time, I can't knock you for not seeing a notification, not checking, and all that jazz. So I want to give the guy some grace to be able to claim his joint. But anyway, I say all that to say the bull bat, I've actually been using it because I need a place to put that power. I have a surplus of power and I'm kind of barely meeting the it's kind of interesting way to say it. I'm kind of barely meeting the capacity, the production with capacity. There you go. So I'm producing a good bit of power. I'm pretty much for the most part able to capture it, but then I have power stations getting full all over the place. I have some power stations that are not even in rotation because they're not in active rotation because I don't need them. My power coming in supplies most of my needs throughout the day. There's a little bit of not an equilibrium between some power stations because my EcoFlow in my zone 1 is only 200 some odd watt hours. So I have to power dump. It used to be a 512 power station, but I had to send it back to EcoFlow to repair. I'll give an update on that a little bit later. But the bull bat has been working out. It gives me another 500 watt hour device to put power into. It's still not perfect. I still have power stations getting full all over the place. But I just say that to say like the bull bat not being gone is an idea because the Foxeon, I burnt out the whole device, the MPPT charge controller, whatever other charge capability it has, it does not charge at all. They did not want to send me another device. So, whatever's clever. Um, so it's an interesting situation to be in. Now, here is let me see. We're going to do energy costs first. Let me share this window. Let's close that. Share screen. Windows. Boom. Share. We're going to add it to the stream. I don't know if I can zoom and it effectually show up here, but let me try. Yeah, it's zooming in, but it's just shrinking the, holy smokes. It's just shrinking the dip. Let me see if I could close this, if it'll give me more. Oh, no, too much. Bring it back. Okay. Right there. So this is essentially what I'm looking at. And the interesting thing about this graph, what's up, JC DIY? The interesting thing about this graph is that it looks like I'm using a lot of power, but I'm actually not because the days are kind of like equalizing. They're becoming less of a fluctuation because one, we don't have heaters that we're using a whole lot, and we haven't gotten into air conditioner season. I'm actually wondering if this summer is going to be on a relatively cooler side. I feel like we've had some hotter summers lately in Western PA. So hopefully we can get by a little bit more with fans. But my wife and I kind of have air conditioners, one for the kids to be able to sleep during nap time and for nighttime to cool our rooms off. And for down here, we typically use the air conditioners just to knock the hotness off the house. Sometimes we don't manage it well. We just let the AC run. But I have been employing a technique of using the timer on the air conditioner now. So I'll set it to run for like an hour or two just to kind of like, so it has an automation to it where it turns off and I don't have to remember to turn it off. So look at this here. So if we go back, this is my bill view and we're looking at cost. This is not usage, but I just want to show you the difference. If my wife is watching, she could see it too. So on this day right here, this is Friday, May 5th. I used $2 worth of power. My energy is about 20 cents a kilowatt. So just to contrast that to, look how much money we had to pay for this day. It's 58 cents. Now, I have said before that typically what happens for me is I use about $3 a day in power. That is typically what we sit at, about $3 a day, $4 a day. If we're really wilding, we get up to 5, and that's on like the hottest or coldest days of the year where we have to use, a good bit of heat, portable heaters and things like that. Now, I tell people, they'll ask me like, how much money does solar save you? And I'll say it generates about $1 a day. I did some math on a couple streams where it was like a $1.35 or something like that. Now we know that where's my mouse at? Jeez. We know that we may or may not know. I know that solar is a slow grind. That's for sure. What's going on with my collar, fam? But I always like to comment when people say, "Man, I'm hooked on solar," and it's like it's so addictive. It's the one hobby that has at least has a recoup. Solar has a moment where if you're not unwise with how you spend money, like if you're buying rigid panels instead of flexible panels or folding panels, it has a recoup period of about 4 to 7 years. Now, if you're buying used panels, lightly used 2 to 3 years, these things will last for like 20 years. Now, the power stations cause your recoup to be a lot longer, but the panels themselves, the power that they produce will get to a point where they start to produce power that it recoups the complete cost of the panel. I think that that's dope. I'm into that 100%. Okay, that's from all right, cool. So I tell people $3 a day typically, and I'm saving about $1 and some change a day on what I can produce with solar. As you can see, this would probably be like a good day for when I would typically. This is a normal day. Let me just say that. That's a normal solar day before I got the new panels, I believe, and before I started finding synergy in how I kind of charge power stations and dish that power out. I also started to deploy, because I'm getting so much power, I can have my bull bat, not my bull bat, my big blue and my oops. Those get power dumped into the oops dual charges, the bullbat triple charges. So I have the capacity, like I'll pair typically the EB70 with the bullbat. I keep saying the bullbat, the big blue. I pair the EB70 typically with the big blue because it has two USB-C ports, 100, 100, both non-bidirectional, which is good for the big blue because the big blue has bi-directional ports. If they both had bi-directional ports, they would be all weird and it'd be a thing, whatever. And it also has 5521 joints. You know that EcoFlow provides, most of their power stations come with a 5521 to 5525. Guess what the big blue charges from? It charges from 5525. So I can triple charge that dip. It's done in about 4 hours. And I can still get a good amount of power in that EB70 because it's on a 200-watt panel. So I can take that big blue and then I can deploy it. I put it in my kids' room. It runs their fan. It's running their fan right now while they're down for their nap. That's what's running their fan. That 500 watt hours, because I use a little Walmart fan that uses about 25 to 40 watts. It lasts throughout the night with power to spare in the morning. So that's a good look. That's another thing that I've kind of pulled off of running constantly on my bill. That 25 to 40 watts per hour, it adds up. So I'm in good shape there. Now, if we go back to the joint, right? Let's actually, yeah, we could do this. Well, maybe we'll do that. No, that doesn't make a big difference. I'm gonna go over to energy use. So you see what the thing kind of looks like now. This is my 3 kilowatt days. Also, interesting thing, I had constantly been getting 5 kilowatt days. I don't know if it's in this range. Okay, that one's 6, 5, 5, 5, 5, 4. I had gotten 2 5 kilowatt days. And what happened was they would be like 5 kilowatts here, and this would be 5 kilowatts too. And I'm like, does this thing not have the ability to go lower than 5 kilowatts? And then I started to wonder, like, if my electric company kind of had a base, a bottom of 5 kilowatts where they wouldn't go any lower. But then, like a week or two later, I saw a 4 kilowatt day. So I'm gradually getting more things on solar power, on power station power, to the point where my power is going down. Now, what I want to do, you can see here on this 12 kilowatt day, this is one of my highest ones. If we click in here, this is that 12 to 12. It's a 24-hour period, maybe 23-hour. You can see when I click on this. Now, kilowatt hours is measured in the thousands. So behind a decimal point, you only get 2 points. So it's 0.25, which is actually 250. It's 250 watt hours. You can see my usage is 250, 140, 170, 150, 160, 130. And then you start to get a little higher, 270, 240, 440, 900, 570. You kind of get the point. This is the highest point where I use a kilowatt of power, which is 1,000 watt hours. That's why there's a one. You get it. This is the lowest point on that day, which is 160. Now, this is a 12 kilowatt day. Let's go forward to the latest. I don't want to do this all day. Oh, this one is a good example too. So you got 180, 170, 140, and then we have these spikes, 130. That is probably when my wife is cooking or when I'm warming up pizza or using the microwave or something like that. It could be when we're drying clothes. I don't know. I need to try and figure out what that is. I keep looking at the camera like y'all can see me, but I ain't nowhere to be found. How about that? How about I put my face here a little bit? You got 1.43. So these are my 12 kilowatt hour days. So if I go back to my bill view, let's look at the 3 kilowatt hour joint. And I'll just tell you some things about this if it opens. So the bar adjusts dynamically. So the high point for this bar is 400 kilowatt hours. I'm sorry, not kilowatt, 400 watt hours. That's like mind blowing to me. I have so much joy because of that. Because it's like, dang, man, that's so low. So you look at this here, 150, 150, 170, 140. This is not, that one's 120, 90 watts was used. Now, you look at that situation, and sometimes I've said before that solar causes you to save money. One, because the panels produce this tangible thing called power. Your power stations store this tangible thing you can use called power. But very early on, I figured out when I got into solar, one thing that also changes, if you allow it, I'm pretty sure it does, you become more aware, cognizant, if you may, of what how much power you use. But when you look at it, when I'm getting so low, because I've always been like my motto is they're pennies, but they're my pennies. I've always been mindful of the power that's being used around the house. I'm not walking around here like a dictator or anything like that. I think I'd like to think I'm reasonable somewhat. Like I want to turn off bigger things. I don't, we don't typically use a lot of lights, just period, because my wife likes to let a lot of natural light in. We don't watch a whole lot of TV during the day. Some days are different than others. But my wife will often make the point that, babe, how much power is it really? And I'm just like, yeah, I hear you. You have a point. It's like they're pennies, but they're my pennies. But this, looking at this bar graph over here, this puts things into perspective, right? If you look and you have a day where you use, or an hour where you use 90 watts, 90 watts of power for the entire hour. Turning a lamp on and leaving it on, if that dip uses 10 to 15 watts, that puts me back at 100. And I know this is minuscule. It's minuscule, but what I'm really trying to do secretly is I'm trying to cut my bill down as much as I can. But you see this up here? It says efficient solar or efficient similar homes use about 240 kilowatt hours. Talked about this before, and it says my home uses about 284. And then they say similar homes use about 445. I always have beef with this because it's like, man, whose house are they polling that can use that little power? But you see, my bar is getting much closer to that bar. So I kind of want to see if I could get to a point where I use so little that it's like, yo, you know what? You're an efficient home now, sir. Welcome to the club. Maybe they'll throw me a party or something. Maybe. I don't know. But I'm kind of chasing that. That's an interesting thing to see on my bill, what efficient homes use. And then one thing that I always do to put it into perspective is this idea that, look, we are a family of 6, right? And we're home all the time. and we're still getting this close to people who probably like live in an apartment or a house and they don't have anybody in the house but them, or they're gone all the time. You know what I mean? It's like my wife is a stay-at-home mom. People are in this house using stuff all the time, and we're not a big electric usage kind of family. We have more than a few TVs, but these TVs are really efficient. I specifically set their settings so that they're not as bright as they can be. A couple of them may be in low power mode. I don't know if TCL got rid of that feature, but I haven't been able to find it lately. I don't know if I looked hard enough, but I don't care. It's set to what it needs to be set to. These two TVs over here that run that my kids game on, they get about 90 to 120 minutes of screen time a day. Um, Typically on the 90 side, maybe 100, 110. They only use about like 15, 20 watts. My big TV in the living room is a 55-inch, like 3 series or 4 series TCL. I think it's a 3 series because it had legs that would fit on my TV stand. It probably uses about 40 watts. And then my internet uses 20. And that's outside of the microwave, the fridge, and the dishwasher. That's really it for our bottom floor. We have like a ceiling fan. I have a light on up here, but I typically use this lamp right here. I have a lamp right here that we use when we need light. And I put two of them. One is right here in the kitchen, and then another one is further in the kitchen to give us more light, because one lamp is not quite enough. My wife has never complained about it, but I kind of wanted more light because our light fixture that's overhead has 2 light bulbs in it. But anyway, all right, back to this situation right here. So you look at this idea of using so little power per hour, 220, 120, 120, that 90 is bananas. So another deduction that I made from this, looking at this usage, I feel like my refrigerator, I would say that it probably uses about 125, 130 watts of power an hour. The reason why I say that is because I've never been able to get a watt meter on it. As many of you know who are like fans of the channel and watch the content constantly, or what's the right word? Regularly. My refrigerator is in a nook in my kitchen and I can't get it out of there right now. It's full of food. It was pushing there when it was empty. It's probably settled into the floor, the rings. We have this like soft, like linoleum style floor. It's not like tile for real. So it's probably stuck down in there. So it's hard to kind of like slide it out. Someone suggested a hand truck was a really good idea, but there's very little room to maneuver at the top. So I couldn't even really lean it too much, but I thought about trying anyway to see if that would work. But anyway, that one is always on electricity. So I would have to assume that the majority of that power is going to my fridge and nothing else, because outside of the hot water heater, a ceiling fan here and there, which we don't run all the time, especially in this season when it's not as hot, I don't see it using a whole lot of power. Now, if we look at some historical stuff, let me see. Let's do, so it's May. I've had solar for like the last 2 or 3 years, so I have to jump back quite a bit. And you have historical data. It goes back pretty far. So this is, let me see, April 22 to, let's go to like 19. No, yeah, let's go to 19. But click on 19, and March to April 15th, you can see I use 600. You can see I use 600 is some odd watt hours. And then look at these days, 27 kilowatt hours. Oh my gosh. It's a lot of power. 17, 20, 36. Good man. 21, 16, 26. This one was estimated at about 20, 19 kilowatt hours. Let's check that one out. Saturday, April 16th of 19. You see, I got 620 watts, 770, 870, 2.29 kilowatt hours. And I imagine we're starting to get into not the average of what homes use, but what's typical for most people who don't care about how much electricity they use, which is fine. No judgment here. But that is interesting. So it's 2023. That's going back like about 4 years. Man, 5 years. Like 4 years ago, that's how much power we were using. Jeez. Let's go back to yearly view. So I have no reason to believe that anything else is pulling this power other than my fridge. I would really love to get my fridge on solar. I do want to endeavor to figure that out. I go back. This is why I went back to show you guys the historical data, because if you think about how much solar I have the capacity to produce now, I should be able to cover the majority of my usage by just using a transfer switch. Now, I don't know if I have enough, I don't know if transfer switches have enough switches to cover the full range of my house. So some things will probably be left out. But I think I could get away with producing enough power to power my entire home. And I know my wife would love that, because then stuff could just be plugged into the wall, and then she don't have to worry about like power stations and stuff like that. But she's gotten really like cool about using power stations. So tip my hat to her. Um, Now if there's a power station up there when she watches TV, which we have like a little it's not back here, a little like 24-inch Samsung TV that's up there. She wants a bigger TV for the bedroom. But if there's a power station up there now, she'll plug it in and she'll use it, which I'm super proud of her for that. I really am, because like I said, you got that TV. It's 24 inches, I believe, and it uses 15 watts. Then I got my TCLs over here. They use about the same thing, and they're 32 inches. I got a monitor right here, a Dell, whatever. I got it for free off the marketplace. Um, I think I have a vlog about that on my family channel, going to pick that up, because I went to this area, and this area is really nice. Typically people who are doing much better in life have the ability to give stuff away for free. And I was nervous. I ain't gonna lie. I ain't want to get pulled over by the police. I didn't want no neighbors calling the police on me, because I've had a couple situations where I went to pick stuff up and the people would just be like, yeah, I'm gonna just leave it on the porch, or I'll put it in the mailbox. I've had at least one or two of those situations. I got a card reader from a guy for free. Actually, I think I got the monitor from the same guy. I could be wrong, but I guess fancy houses look alike. All your houses look alike. um, I was nervous about that, but I got this monitor for free, and it uses very little power. I actually turned the brightness down a lot to bring the power draw down lower. It'll probably use about 20 watts on normal setting, but it uses about 13 to 14 to 15 watts. And I started using it more because I have all this solar power coming in with nothing to do with it. That's another thing I wanted to talk about. On yesterday, I actually, for the first time, not for the first time, I've used my vacuum cleaner on my power stations before, but I resolved in my mind that because I had this extra power coming in, I was at a almost full power station. I was like, let me vacuum. So I vacuumed a good bit. My vacuum uses about 1,000 watts. And I mean, it was like a situation where it's like, I got to use this power, and I needed the vacuum. I want a little like lighter weight vacuum to pick up like dirt and debris off of the floor. I don't like walking on dirt and debris in my kitchen and stuff like that. And there's tons of it. We have 4 kids. So it's not like, I don't want to paint them like they're just messy kids, because they're not. But within our parameters, as reasonable, whatever, they are somewhat messy. So I have to sweep often, and I don't like sweeping, but I want a little lightweight floor vac so I could kind of do that easily. And to have a quick deviation, I thought about getting a battery powered one, but those battery powered ones, it's either the battery is not replaceable, or buying a replacement battery is a hustle. I have a Ryobi string trimmer, And the reason why I bought that many years ago is because it was a dual source. So you could plug it into the wall and you could put batteries into it. I'm into stuff like that, so that when my battery dies and that becomes a hustle or a pain to try and replace it, it's like I'll just use it wired. If I could get a floor vac like that, we could go wired or battery, I'd buy that in a heartbeat if the price was right. So I was making this point about my ability to produce solar and then how much my house actually uses. So you've seen that I've had in some of these situations way back when I'm using like, 19 kilowatt hours, 12. This is not as high right here. I think I'm in 20 to 21, which is probably when I added solar to the mix. This is a little bit more normal: 19, 12, 18, 21, 19, so on and so forth. And if you click on one of these, let's do the 19 joint, you can see that that's 1.36 kilowatts. So that's a lot. Luckily, we don't use that much power anymore. That's a lot. I'm gonna get to comments in a second. I see a couple that have come through. 550, 600. Now, I want to talk about these panels because I have on paper, I actually recalibrated this today. Actually, before we talk about the panels, let me see what y'all snapping and trapping about. What's up, T Wayne? Good to see you, sir. All right, so I want to get back to electronzap.com. Talk about his channel. I asked him to give me a summary, and this is that summary. I'm a normal man. People can call me whatever. Oh, okay, I don't care. I mostly show how to build basic electronic circuits on his channel. He loves all things electronics. So give him a look over and see if you're into any of his content. That's cool. I thank you for being a part of the community and being active in the community, sir. All right, I said, okay, so JC has 11 cents here in East Tennessee per kilowatt. We use about $1.35 to $2.50 a day. Okay, cool. That's what's up. I can tell on the graph when I'm utilizing my solar generators for sure. That dip is real. Nickname for his power stations. Personally, I like to name Duran Duran. That's funny because I don't consider myself one to nickname power stations. I'm definitely not into that. But my vernacular is such that I nickname or I abbreviate, and I do a lot of stuff like that. I've always been that way as like a kid and things like that. So that's interesting. So Duran Duran just comes to mind. What I do is I think a lot of times I just associate things differently. Like when Radio Shack was around, my friend and I used to call it the Sugar Shack. Best Buys, Best Busy. Sadly, I feel like this is a little derogatory, but I live in my truth. I don't say it as much anymore, but Walmart, I used to call it Little China, which is not cool, but that's what I used to call it. So I do these like little flips. Celebrating my bride's birthday today. Oh, I tell her I said happy birthday. We pray all is well with you and your family. Please tell your wife hello. Blessings to you all. I appreciate you, sir. I will pass that on, and you pass on my birthday wishes to your missus. Use an amp clamp on that circuit on the breaker panel and multiply by the voltage. That's trigonometry. My brain can't process that fast. Use an amp clamp on that circuit on the breaker panel and multiply by the voltage. Yeah, voltage times amps is watts. I don't know what that's addressing or how that would help me. You need some of those pump up bladders that can easily lift things. I use them to lift appliances. Yeah, that's interesting. I saw one recently. It may have been Silver Symbol. I think he did a video on one where you could put it in your door jamb and kind of pump it up. I was talking with Wayne about that. I think he said he ordered a couple of them or he had a couple of them. That's interesting. It's an interesting thing. That whole idea of pumping it up and how leverage and that stuff works. People do that a lot in the Alaska shows that I watch. You just gotta kind of be in, what's the word? You have to use ingenuity. I don't know what tense of the word I'm looking for. Look up air wedge. I will do. I use Emporia Energy and installed it under an hour in my breaker box, less than $100. If my breaker box was newer, I would entertain some of that stuff. I definitely looked into it. Before I got into solar, like in terms of product, I was really like into getting into my power usage and figuring out what's what. So those things kind of, I was curious about that a lot. I was very curious about it. But with my panel being all old and needing to be replaced, and it's going to cost a grip to replace, and I don't have coins like that to be spending. Um, I think one dude quoted me like some obscene number to me, like 3,500. It's like, man, I don't, $2,000. I was going off of Jehu's idea. He was saying, he's out in Cali. He was saying, this was years ago, many years ago. Now that I think about it, it's like the pandemic was at least a good 4 or 5, and we're still kind of in that phase. Not really, but he was saying like, yeah, $500 you could get, your panel upgraded, or someone could install a transfer switch for you. And I was kind of going off of that. Like if I could have spent $500 to $1,000 to do something, it's like I'd figure that out. But $2-3 grand, I can't. With what Kevin Hart said, who I'm not really a fan of, by the way. I don't want y'all to think I like Kevin Hart. I'm a Dave Chappelle, Chris Rock kind of guy. He said the way my bank account is set up. It's like, yeah, buddy. Let's see here. Oh, okay, I missed that one. Locksmiths use them to wedge open. Yeah, okay, modern car doors so they can get the Slim Jims in there. Yep. What app are you using to track this data? I have a DIY setup and have been looking for apps, hardware, and devices to see our consumption. So just see JC's comment. He has the Emporia. Sense makes one that'll give you some data, but this is my electric company's providing me this usage. I don't have anything in-house that tells me how much usage that I'm using. I have these little Wi-Fi switches that I could plug in devices and kind of see stuff, but that's not what I use them for. I just want to see the kilowatt usage live, and some historical data is decent, but that's not my main use for them. I want to be able to turn the switch off and on wirelessly, and I want to be able to see how much data, how much power is being used. But Emporia and Sense are the ones that I think come to mind. Why not use a plug-in microinverter? Okay, plug-in microinverter. I don't understand them well enough to use them, and I have a bit of some trepidation there because I don't want to ring off any alarms with my electric company. And I feel like I would just be switching one micromanaged situation for another. Granted, that would be a better one in theory, but the risk is there because you start backfeeding the grid. Those people can I don't know how my power company will react to that if they caught me doing it, because in a lot of what do they call them? Is it jurisdictions? What's the term for an area? I don't know. They consider that to be illegal to do that. Though I tried to jimmy open the door of a BMW Amazon truck when Amazon locked their keys in there. Took 3 wedges. That door is built strong. Okay, that's why I have my windows super window tinted so cops can't see my color. It's funny, but it's real. Yeah, but I actually saw a guy. He drives it's a car similar to, I think it's the Hyundai version, but it's a car similar to like the Volkswagen Golf. It's one of these little hatchback styles. And my wife looked at his registration and she was like, your registration is like 5 years old. I think he had a 19 sticker on it. And I'm like, yeah, but he drives that car that is not stereotypically or generally driven by Black people. So that's probably why he don't get no smoke from them. It's just stuff we got to deal with, man, being people of color. You know what I mean? We take it in smiles. Sometimes it gets frustrating. Sometimes we get angry, but it is our reality, or it's enough of our reality to be aware of it so you're not blindsided by it. Solar making you do some house cleaning. That's a nice perk. You should mention Dell. Yeah, she knows, but I'm a vacuuming guy anyway. It's one of, if if housework, whatever, vacuuming is the thing that I do without any coaxing or anything like that. I love vacuuming. Neighbors often set stuff next to the street with a free sign, and I would still feel awkward grabbing it if it was something I wanted. In my mind, it's not actually free unless it's handed to me. I got you. Yeah, anything can look like stealing. I understand that 100%. That's the thing. Me and Setai talk about this stuff all the time. It's not that necessarily Black people and white people get treated different. It's complex. It's like that layer of awareness and sensing that you're doing something foul is heightened for Black people. It's like if somebody sees you grabbing something, the neighbor may peek out the window and look. But if you Black, oh, they definitely peeking out the window and they may call the police. They don't, you know what I mean? It's like, so it's levels to it. And many of my OG viewers know I don't mind talking about race. I'll talk about whatever I want to. I don't care. Trash at the street is legally free to anyone who wants to grab it. Go for it. At Hector, that's his power company's website. Facts. I ran my fridge for 24 hours without solar on my Delta Max 2000 with 10% left. I have a Samsung 18 cubic feet fridge. It does have the inverter technology. Inverter just means variable AC compressor. JC understands that stuff so much better than I do. Okay. Texas Nail Educator. Oh, it's good to see you, Texas Nail Educator. It's been a while. Got those panels up and on the roof, but not connected as of yet. So I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, but you had the 8 panels that we were talking about trying to wire together in a way that was conducive to your power station that you had. Let me know if I'm tripping. I think that's the name that should be associated with this. The fridge amps down voltage equals watts. You can do all of this in the breaker panel. Yeah, so what JC is talking about is the idea that if you can get access to the breaker to put a clamp around it, then you could see how many amps are coming through that line, and then you just multiply the amps times the voltage. And realistically, you don't even need to measure the voltage, even though that would be a little hard, I think. I don't know if you can measure voltage at a panel without disconnecting some stuff, because my understanding, I'm not a novice, but I'm an intermediate. You have to measure voltage inline. You can't go around a joint and give a voltage reading. So then you just guess your voltage is like 118, 120, 117. And if you see 3 amps coming through there, then that's how much watts. Volts, 120 times 3, whatever that is, 360 watts. Yeah, that's possible. Well, I want that Emporia so bad. It should still work in an old panel. I'm not taking the risk. My panel is greasy. What's going on with Beats? Good to see you, man. Peace to you as well. And your family. Thanks. Little China, that is not derogatory. You were around when Walmart's tagline for items was sold. Whoa, really? Oh, you were around when Walmart's tagline for items they sold was made in America. Then Walmart became a hypocrite. Now all of that mess is Chinese made. Interesting. I never was like consciously aware of that made in America stuff. That's interesting. If Walmart bit the dust today, I would shed a tear. You would or wouldn't? Okay, I got you. Would not. You would not shed a tear. Yeah. I do think that we need to swing back to a less centralized means of getting our goods and services and food and stuff like that. I hope calamity doesn't have to drive us to that, but we really need to get away from going to these big box stores for everything. Setai actually just put out a video that I'm going to put in. Setai, you're a moderator, I believe. Go ahead and drop your video link to your video you did. But it's about his homestead. So he's starting a homestead. He's a super techie, like smart guy, but he's into like getting out there in the dirt, and he bought like a piece of land and a house on it and all that jazz. So he's like homesteading essentially. And he was just talking about, me and him were talking personally, and he also mentioned it in the video that, you know, buying I guess soil from a big box store is a lot more expensive than going to like a local thing. And he mentioned that in that video, a quick little caveat. So it was a cool video too. Go ahead and drop the link. You should be able to drop the link in the chat. Y'all go check out his video. I appreciate this journey that he's on, and I'm interested in it. And we've been talking about it and all that jazz. I'm not into homesteading personally, but I like watching that kind of stuff. So, yeah, all that jazz. I still think if you size it for your grid tie, for your lowest hour, you won't have to worry. If you have 600 watts at the lowest, or 500 to 7, yeah, my stuff is not that simple. So what he's saying is, okay, Ive, how much power do you use typically? Then figure out a grid tie inverter, which they're not legal in most whatever jurisdictions, provinces, whatever your area is called. If you go under the radar of that kind of usage, then you should be fine. But here's the issue that will cause me to have to manage it. I would just be swapping one thing for another. It would be more convenient. And I haven't taken the time to really think about it. I've processed it in the moment when we're talking, but I would have to really sit down and process, okay. If I do grid tie, one thing is it takes solar panels out of play. So I would have to create a system with panels, which I may do. I'm interested in it. I would have to create a system, get the grid tie inverter. You can parallel those dips. You have to be worried about the capacity so you don't max them out. He calls it Chinesium. Maybe some other people call it that. You have to be worried about that as well. So you can't max them out, which is typically true of a lot of stuff. And then that power can go directly into my grid and feed my home. And if it stays under what my home uses, let's say it uses 600, my baseline is 600 watts, which is not even close. My baseline, because again, we don't have a lot of stuff in my house, is probably more realistically like you saw, 190. So it's a 200 watt array, and then I'm done. You know what I mean? It's like, then what? It's like, is it worth the effort to put a joint in place for 200 watts when I've essentially probably taken 400 to 600 watts off my grid usage with just my power stations being in the place that they are, and I could pull off a little bit more if I get my fridge out of this nook? I don't know. I just feel like it's six one way, half a dozen another, with more risk involved. But that's my thought. Let's see. Oh, thanks. I live in Southern Cali. I wish power company broke down my power bill in this fashion. Shoot, they start giving you them smart meters and the net metering 3.0 and all that jazz. They may have to, but that would be cool. If they gave it to you, I dig that. Yes, I had the 8 panels, but it has been a lot of rain, so I don't know if I have enough wire as of yet. What do you mean? Enough wire? Because like worst case scenario, I get you. Enough wire. It's raining to get your power station out of the rain. I get it. I understand 100%. But wires are not that expensive. $50, $60 will get you like a 50-foot 10 gauge or something around that, 50-foot 12 gauge to get that stuff in there. But you have to size your wire per the amps and the volts. I'm not an expert at this, but Renogy has a site that I don't think I have it on this computer. Renogy has a calculator that if you go into it, there's a bunch of calculators, and one of those calculators will tell you what size gauge wire you need for the length and the power that you're going to have running through it. Just play around with those numbers. If you need help, hit me up. We could figure it out. B3 Outdoors gave me that suggestion, so shout out to him. I tried to super chat, but it didn't work. What's your favorite power station so far? Now, I'm not answering that question until you super chat me, fam. Super chat that up. You feel me? Super chat that up. Let's see. What happened? I wonder why it didn't work. Let's do live stream, because I'm not in this doesn't impact it, but I'm not actually in YouTube. But the super chats still show up here in StreamYard. I wonder if something happened. Verify it's you. Oh my gosh. I appreciate the security. Whatever. Check your phone. Check my phone is so funny because I have so many phones. That's crazy. Hey, cash at me, bro. I wonder why that did work. But anywho, oh, I see Grand Acres. What's happening? Okay, what's your favorite power station? Let me get back to that. This is Set Tight's latest video. It's the video I was talking about where he put together like a little short whatever, what he was doing. He was into a bunch of things. He had a bunch of little mini projects going on, made a nice video. Moves at a good click. That's important to me. It's important to a lot of people, but he tries to pin that preference on me. So moves at a good click, got some nice music, good vibes, man. Good vibes. Okay, at Hector, if they have the option, most companies are moving to smart meters. You might have to sign up for a time of use power plan. Ooh, geez. I guess we could talk about time of use one day. That's an interesting thing to talk about. Hey, Grand Acres, you're super late, but here, you're good. You're good money. You don't want to send back access to the grid when you don't have a bidirectional meter. If you're making 600 and you're using 300, then 300 looks like usage. That's the best case scenario. The worst case scenario is somebody knocking on my door and be like, bruh, what is you doing? Sending power back to our grid. We don't know you like that. You want me to get them people on you? Or here's a letter, you're going to be charged a fee for doing that. I don't need those problems. You know what I mean? For the sake of curiosity, I do want to try an on-grid, or off-grid. What are they called? What are the things called? An on-grid inverter or whatever. I've always been curious about that. You know, I got 2 Renogy panels right now that I want to sell. I probably will sell. But if I didn't sell them, then I could use them for that. Also, the problem is, not the problem, but then I have to run another set of wires into my house because it would have to go into an outlet. And then, yeah, it's just, I don't know if it's worth it. I still want to try it, but I don't know if it's worth it because our power usage can be so low at times. Okay. I think it's my billing never works. Man, you got to get your money the way your checking account is set up. Yeah, I'm trying to give I have a cheap way to do it. There are more expensive inverters with clamp monitors that will, that will lower their own power so you don't backfeed. But the cheap ones don't do that. Right. What he's talking about is there are some, I mean, he explained it pretty good. That there's some that like Sun Gold Power, I believe, makes a couple of them. If you look for grid tie inverters on Amazon, you'll see some. The cheaper ones are the ones that look like little like Gandel inverters, and the bigger ones look like all-in-ones. And so what they do is they sense how much power is being used, and then they try to automatically kind of regulate it. I wonder how well they work. I think the guy off-grid basement powered, whatever it is, it's the guy with the interesting accent. He has a couple videos on it. I don't fully comprehend. It's like I don't comprehend it enough, or I don't follow it enough to feel comfortable. And there's not a whole lot of content surrounded around this topic. So I'm interested in it. I really am. Use an outdoor outlet. Yeah, but then I thought about that 100% because I have an outdoor outlet. Literally, if you imagine looking out of my backyard, for you guys are familiar, I have panels laying flat right on one containment wall of my driveway, and then the other one where I just cut the trees down. That's the only other side, which is the left side. I know it looks weird because the camera is mirroring it, but straight back along the side of my house, I have an outlet right there. But would I want to have an inverter outside? No. You know what I mean? So it's just like I would want to have it's the situation where the panels are coming into the inverter, the off grid or the on grid inverter, and then that can be inside relatively cool and then goes right into an outlet. So I've thought about an outside outlet, even temporarily, just to try it, just to see if it will work. 200-watt panel, get it popping. So yeah, I've thought about it, man. Listen, I thought about it. I just don't know how committed I am to it. The meter doesn't know any better. The meter just sees flow. No one actually knows. Yeah, you say that. How much you got on my if they hit me with a penalty, JC DIY. You already can't get the super chat working. You feel me? How much you got on my? Yeah. Oh man. Just plug it directly into your outside outlet. They are waterproof, meant to be mounted under a panel. Now you're talking about the micro inverters. That's a fair point. I wish, I don't think I've seen a video that really makes me feel comfortable with how micro inverters work. I don't have a good understanding of that. I mean, I get it in theory. My understanding is it goes like this. Okay, panel to microinverter. Microinverter has the ability to change DC to AC. Then you have to go through this stuff about wiring. I am not crazy about wiring. So you would have to then probably like buy an AC extension cord, or if you have one around, strip the stuff off, connect the 3 wires appropriately, you know, the neutral, hot, and ground or whatever. I don't know that stuff. And then plug it into your wall. Now, me talking this out, I don't know that it works that way. This is what I'm guessing. This is how I'm guessing it works. There is this system. I cannot think of the name of it, but there's a system that's out there that they sell you in a kit, and you get the panels and the inverters already have the AC plugs. I'm just a simple guy. I already like the AC plugs attached to my stuff. I don't want to wire stuff up and all that jazz. I'm just not into that. So, and I haven't seen anybody do a video that resonated with me to the point where it was like, oh, okay, that's cool. It's either the people beat around the bush. What's up, guys? Is Adele still sleeping? Yeah. Okay, I need y'all to kind of keep it on the lower side. You don't have to be whisper quiet, okay? Thank you. Is mommy asleep? Okay. I feel like if y'all want to get back to having some screen time, you guys can start taking turns again. It's like, forget these gloves. Let's see. You got me. Okay, let me see. I missed something. Okay, yeah, the meter. Okay, I read that. Agreed. So if he dumped 1 kilowatt in during a 0.6 kilowatt, which is 600 watt hours, they see that he backfed and might come to his door. But if he sizes it right, it will be just fine. Jehu has a peak shaving video on it. Yeah, I don't know what these people can sense. You know what I mean? Like with these meters and stuff. I'm not taking that risk. But I understand in theory. I've heard the theory before. People talk about it all the time. Like if you backfeed and you don't have a smart meter, then they just see it as usage and they'll bill you for it. And what we're really saying is that if you produce 1 kilowatt or 1,000 watts through your joint, your meter sees that movement and you start sending it back to the grid, your electric company just thinks you're still using power. They don't see it as power coming in. That's why when people get solar on their houses, they need the smart meter so that the meter can see what's going on. Some people even have joints where they could see it rolling backwards or spinning backwards or whatever. But that's still, a lot of people have talked about this. That still doesn't mean that your company is going to deduce. You have to go into an agreement with them, and then they have to put the meter on there so that the meter knows the difference and all that jazz. Yeah, I turned it down, guys. You heard me? Turn it down. So anyway, there's a whole bunch of caveats to that. So move on from that for a little bit, possibly. All right. Let's see. It'll only be seen and billed as usage. You got me, man. You're talking about meters that see backfeed as in feed. I've heard of that. Microinverter with MC4 connectors on it and a 110 male plug. Just connect the MC4 and plug in. Done. Can you, if you send me a product that is micro inverter to AC plug, please shoot it over to me. I don't recall, and I may have been sent a video or 3 by set type, but I just didn't connect with the information enough to feel comfortable with like, oh, okay, yeah, I could do that. That's easy. That would be great though. A micro has rapid shutdown built in, so if the power goes out, the micro inverter shuts down. What do they call that in some instances? Like islanding, and anti-islanding. Islanding. What's up, sir? I've had a few days where I only paid less than 50 cents a day for electricity after using my AC 300. I'm an off-grid kind of guy. I don't do that grid tie stuff. I dig that. I ain't mad at that at all. Now, 50 cents it's that just blows my mind that for a whole day's worth of usage is less than $1. That's bananas to me. I'm like elated at that, and I'm trying to see how low I can get it, which is why I'm endeavoring to get this fridge off of the wall, because that's one of my last remaining uh, power usages. And I recorded a video recently. I have to figure out whether I'm gonna put it on Patreon or not. And guys, I don't know if I'm clear about this, but the Patreon situation is really just about videos that I don't think would be great on YouTube. And that has to do with like thumbnail, YouTube title, and just like packaging and stuff like that. Because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to be intentional about growing the channel, not in a sleazy way, but I do want to continue to grow the channel. And I can't always put out videos that have no appeal to some people. Some videos just don't perform well. You know what I mean? And it is what it is. I'm not knocking people for not being interested in certain types of videos, like my vlog series or my behind the scenes videos. They don't do very well, and it could be just me. I'm not packaging it in such a way that creates intrigue and is curiosity driven, um, or that feels relevant to most people. But excuse me. Oh, I could get some water. Mouth is dry. Hey, 2%. What's happening? So I use that as an outlet for that. And I may put the video there, but I may put it on the main channel. I would like to put it out because I think it's an interesting video. The video, I actually cooked my kids' food in an air fryer. And I kind of go through the journey of doing that, how I logistically try to get it done. The wife is even in that video. So it's a cool little fun video. It should be nice. Hopefully I can get the thumbnail and title right. Actually, YouTube logic from people who teach this stuff, they always say you start with a thumbnail and a title in mind, because then that way you can craft the video to meet the expectations of the thumbnail and the title. Whereas, like, I don't do that a whole lot. I think about it just in theory, but it makes sense. Now, I'm not saying that I can't take a video that I already shot and then make an interesting or compelling thumbnail and title afterwards. But it's just easy to think about who your audience is, think about who you're making the video for. What would they be interested in? What would they want to see during this video? Like, you really drill down, and then you can craft a thumbnail and a title that speaks specifically to that person or that type of person. And then the content just follows and delivers on what you set out to get them to be interested in the first place. So you don't meander, you don't mess around. If the video is about using an air fryer, you don't start the video by saying like, hey guys, today is a hot day. Solar is popping. I got my ace fold down here and it's getting there. It's like, dude, that's not why I clicked the video. I want to see you cook on an air fryer. And of course, some people will watch that, but then it doesn't have mass appeal. You know what I mean? It's just your core audience. And again, I'm trying to grow the channel. But anyway, little YouTube stuff. Don't backfeed if you can help it. Why do you say that, dude? Like, it's interesting. Like, when you have these hardcore people, I'm not saying that you are, but it's like people just say, "Don't do something." Like, don't backfeed. Don't use a suicide cord because you could electrocute the people on the thing, and it's dangerous. And it's just like, okay, all right. Well, I had a whole live stream about the suicide cord and all that jazz. I think it was a good conversation. I may revisit that one. That one was cool. Maybe I'll chop a couple clips out of it. I want to start pulling clips out of my live stream, but I don't feel like with my camera having these bars on the side, I may have to put it into an editor and kind of make it more normal so it doesn't have these black bars. so it could be a more like interesting looking video. I do think the quality is okay. It's not great, but it's better than a webcam, which is why I want to upgrade my camera, but that's a whole nother thing. Actually, any coinage that you guys send this way, I'm actually specifically putting that into a pot of trying to upgrade my camera because I need a better camera. I would like a better camera to better capture things around the house than the camera I use, which is just typically this, which is the GoPro Osmo Action. There's even a newer version of this, but I'm trying to avoid buying new cameras that just don't have a microphone import. What I have right here is you have to use an adapter. It goes into the side right here, and then you can kind of plug a wireless microphone, a wired microphone. I need the camera to have a microphone input jack. I have to stop compromising on the things that I need, because when you don't have the things that you need, it's another hurdle in the creation process, in the creativity process, in the making video process. And it's just, I'm not good with hurdles. I like my stuff to be kind of like as smooth as possible. So I'm not a big fan of that. So my next camera needs to have just a microphone input jack. If I've been saying headphone jack, that's my bad. A microphone input jack. So I use that as my camera, which is not the best. It gets the job done. The quality is good. I'm not hating on the Osmo Action, but it'd be nice to have something that was better quality. I recently got an iPhone 12 on a really good deal. That video quality is a lot better. A lot better. It's better. And I use my Samsung phone sometimes to record videos, but that's the extent. Jason Noyer uses a Canon M50. I think he has the Mark One. I've looked at the Mark II. They are good cameras, but for what they charge, it's not as impressive enough for me. And y'all know I value my coins. So, it's a whole thing. Okay, we did that. A peacock. My pre-cook peacock. I don't know where. I pre-cook my food with solar. When the sun is out, then warm it up later to save money. Interesting. What do you mean? Like, give me specifics about that. Your power company is around to make money. They will screw you in the end, undercut you. If you're trying to produce for them, that's why it's better to store power in batteries and use it when you need it. I got you. Yeah, I don't want to take any risk. Um, I don't want to take too much of a risk, and then I have to weigh it against what works for me now. And I don't have now. Now here's the thing: if those companies, I think it's like Y and H that makes those little cheap inverters, I should email them to see if they'll send me one, and then that'll be a project worth trying. JC, I'm kind of counting on you to send me a MC4 already has an AC joint micro inverter. Micro inverters are really interesting. They're really cool devices, but I'm not wiring it up myself. That's for sure. Boom, 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 boom. I got you on PayPal. Hey, that's what's up. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. And people who share their coins, man, it works for me. Let me see. I think YouTube just filtered my message. Let me see if it's up here. It filtered messages don't show up in. No, I don't see a hidden message. They may have blocked your message in a way that I can't see. Oh, yes, it says message retracted, which it says it on the live stream. It doesn't say it here. I don't think it supports retracting messages here. Oh, I typed all that. Sent was a smiley face. Are you sure? That's interesting. I mean, I'm sure you're sure. I mean, you did it. Let's see. My notes. Now, what's up, Byron? What's happening? Good to see you, sir. Another thing that's going on with this idea of getting my power usage so low is not, I mean, we talked about it in the larger sense, but my bill is a lot cheaper. I mean, I think I looked at my bill. Let me remove this just so I don't have no mishaps. Stop screen share. Let's go back to my account. It logged me out. I think in general, man, we would typically have like a 70, 80, 90, $100 bill. $100 bill. But right now, our current amount due is $48, which is like just dope. The previous payment was $59. So I was kind of like messing with my wife. Like, man, that is actually in the air fryer video, I believe. It's like, man, the bill is cheaper because of me. I need you to understand that. So my bill has dropped down by almost half, and I hope to get it lower. Actually, while I'm in here, let me look at my kilowatt rating by looking at my bill. View current bill. I'll tell you guys exactly what it is. Come on, next page. My current kilowatt rate is, zoom this thing in a little bit. Okay. The supply charges itself are, let's just say let's call it 0.8 cents, because it's 0.0779. So we're just gonna round up to 8 cents a kilowatt hour. And then for my distribution or getting the power to me, it's 9 cents. So my joint is 16 cents a kilowatt hour, which is, that's not terrible, but it's more than it used to be. It used to be about, actually, it's not a lot more. I think I used to be looking at about 7 and 7. And it could have always been like 7.8 and 7.8, but it only jumped up a little bit. And I told you guys recently, they tried to raise my rate to like 11 cents. A lot of people had their rates raised in the last like 2 or 3 years, specifically during the pandemic and with the conflict in Russia or Ukraine. Um, but these people try to raise my rate up to like 11 cents, and I called them and they kept it at what they kept it before. So, competition is good, I guess, right? Okay, what we have here? Yeah, that's YouTube. It was doing that to me also. Really interesting. I was trying to tell most prep and tech that we aren't talking about legal backfeeding with net metering. Trying to use solar to shave off. We are or aren't? Okay. My next purchase is the EcoFlow smart home panel and another Delta Pro. So 2 Delta Pros. What's your plans for it? Yeah, I guess you want the 240. 240? That's interesting. That's a lot of coin. That's an interesting approach. What do you think about that compared to batteries in an all-in-one system, JC? DIY. I need to finish setting up my solar so I can get the bill down too. I'm feeling bad having all the solar equipment sitting in boxes. You should feel bad. No, I'm kidding. I'm taking a few Fridays off over the next month to give myself some long weekends. Gonna try and get the solar done. Yeah, I dig that. I'm happy to have this Monday off because then I could do some things. Hopefully, I may just end up taking it easy. We're at 434 kilowatt hours and 8 days left on an all electric. Oh, okay, I got you. All electric 1,600 square foot house. Last year we used 635, so solar's kicking it for me. It's like that's what's up. I wish I had that multiple Delta Pro money. People on that Delta Pro face would be having rooms full of Delta. Yeah, they do. Rumor has it the Delta Pro is going to have a sequel coming this year, like all the other models. I hate the fans on the current Delta Pro. Oh, yeah, the fans are terrible. They're terrible. I saw Jason Noy's video on the Delta Max 2, and he was saying how impressed he was with the fans. So that's pretty cool. I was actually looking at that Hobotech review of that air conditioner heat joint. He explained how it worked. I didn't understand it, and I didn't listen twice, so I just kept moving. But it's an interesting little device. It's $1,000. I think with the battery, it's like an extra 200. It's a lot of coin, man. I wonder how they compare. Like, can you manage to justify a purchase like that over the years, much like you can justify the purchase of solar? Set tight. My man likes math. What do you think about that question? Prepping on the creek. What's good, man? It was good to see your comment on a video that I did before. I think it was the Foxy Yon. I'm trying to shift over to storing energy in 12-volt LiFePro batteries with okay, interesting. Now, how do you feel about going up in voltage? Because Setite is always talking about the I don't mean to say always, like he's always like, oh, 40, but the higher voltage is seems interesting, an interesting way to go. What do you think about that? Or are you like gonna buy a couple here and there, or one here, one there, put them in series, parallel for your needs? I will tell you this. Because of this surplus of power that I have when the sun is out here doing its thing, and I had my 12-volt to from NOCO Power, my 12-volt to 12, my battery clamp or alligator clip to 12-volt socket, it stopped working on me. I'm gonna email them, and I'm gonna email them from my Ask Solar joint, and I'm going to mention that I'm a YouTuber. I'm just like, I'm gonna see what it's hitting for, because they make a lot of cool little wires and cables and stuff like that, and see if we could kind of figure something out relational wise. But at the minimum, I want them to replace that joint. I really don't like 12-volt sockets. The joints that these go in, I just don't like them. I use them because I have to. We use them because we have to. I'm just not a fan of them. These little 100 watt rated joints, they'll produce 100 watts just until they get hot. And the things are so small, they get hot so quickly. So it's like, is it really 100 watts, fam? It's like, you give me 100 watts for like 20 minutes. And then the thing is too hot, it has to drop down to 60. It's like, geez, man, what are we doing here? What was I getting at? Oh, I've been thinking about, man, locally, there was a Renogy 2000 watt inverter. The guy was trying to sell it for way more than he should have been trying to sell it for. And I probably could have got a good deal on it, but I was like, I don't know if I need one. I may be able to get one in the future. Actually, a company was supposed to send me one. They kind of flaked on me, which happens. It happens often enough to where I've considered starting to tell people, like, look, are you serious about working with me? If you're serious, let's start talking. If you're just filling me out and making contact, kind of playing the 10% game, where it's like, okay, well, if I email, a certain amount of people, 10% are going to get back to me, and just stop wasting my time. I don't want to have an 8 exchange joint for you to figure out, oh, you know what? We don't really want to work with this guy because his vlog videos only got 600 views. And I'll tell you something. People typically, unless you make a video that is appealing to the masses, you probably get about a 10% viewership on your videos. So I got like 7,000 subs for my core, like videos that are not made to be like super big, and I didn't do great on the thumbnail. That's me being objective, because if you do great on the thumbnail and title, then you get more views. Or if you do a product related joint, you get more views. So it's just being realistic about it. If you're just doing like what I do to prepare for winter sun, that's not all that. It's not sexy, you know what I mean? So it doesn't get a whole lot of views. Now, I'm not a professional at doing this YouTube stuff. I consider myself to be intermediate, maybe a little bit more than intermediate, maybe advanced. I continue to learn. I continue to watch videos about YouTube strategy and stuff like that, because I want to be good at what I do. I want the channel to continue to grow. But I say all that to say, what was I trying to say? I don't know. I lost it in a moment. But anyway, this idea of making content and making videos that appeal to the masses it's an art. It's something that you have to figure out. So not all videos will be appealing to everybody. I typically get about a 10% viewership on my normal videos. Now, videos that have a little more extra appeal or I design the thumbnail really well and the title is really cohesive and all that jazz, I'll probably get more views. So these companies, that's what I was talking about. They may look at certain videos and say, we don't want it. So it's sometimes them wasting my time is annoying. So I've been considering, but it is what it is. I don't know how flippant I can be and like, don't waste my time because I'm still a small YouTuber. All right, prepping on the creek. Are the batteries 4S capable? If so, I'm on board with the piecemeal. I've has at least one 12-volt battery that is not series capable, so it's stuck at 12 volt, which makes me sad. Yeah, it makes me sad too. I did not know any better. Okay, let's see. I want to offset everything. I'm going backwards here. Okay, yeah. My problem with the Delta Pro is that the solar input doesn't match the AC output. I like all-in-ones because they have like 8 kilowatt solar on a 6.5 kilowatt hour output or watt hour output. Yeah, you got kilowatt there. So you can charge while using the full output. That is an excellent point, and I think that's a conversation that needs to be had, because essentially what we're doing when we buy these power stations that have all this capacity is we're essentially telling ourselves now, okay, I'm gonna finish the thought. We're essentially saying that we will only run large devices for short periods of time because you won't be able to recoup that power while that large device is running, right? You'll recoup some of it. But realistically, actually, there's another point in there that we will only run one large device at a time, which is not typically how households run. You have a moment every now and then where you need to microwave and the dishwasher is running, or you need to microwave and the dryer is running. And the joint can produce the power, but it can't get the power in fast enough. But I don't think a lot of people kind of think about it in that way, because what we typically do in the power station community is you buy what you can afford. So you kind of have this little gradual increase in what you're capable of producing and powering. And you just have limitations. You can't do everything. And that's fine. But for the amount of money that people spend compared to an all-in-one and battery solution, we really need to start thinking about, okay, when you start to get to a point where you're thinking about buying a couple Delta Pros, is that the best way to go at $6,000 a pop? Well, not $6,000 a pop, but $6,000 total, like $3,000 a pop. I don't know. I don't know if that's the look, but far be it from me, the person who loves the all-in-one nature of power stations, to knock somebody from spending their money on, a couple of those joints. I can't knock that because I like the ease, the mobility, and so on and so forth. So, I say in some of my videos, like, my pockets ain't your pockets. Yeah. So, which is essentially to say my money ain't your money. So may or not do the AC, but we have comment outages here, and I don't mind paying for EcoFlow's monthly versus what the dollar amount was. I was quoted at $60K for a system. Yeah, that puts things into perspective, but you could still build your own stuff for cheaper. So Ty says, now I agree with always. Yeah, okay. You always stress 48. I gotcha. I try to avoid 12 volt like the plague. Wiring is a dog at 12 volt. Yeah. What gauge do you need? That inverter is almost 300 amps at 12 volts. Interesting. I don't know if that's a question towards me, but I definitely don't know an answer. My main problem with keeping the bill down is cooking. Facts. I just mentioned earlier that I was able to put the air fryer on a power station. The power station was full of power, and it only dropped it down by about 25%. I actually said in the video 15%, but I think it was at 99% and not like 90. But 25% on a banging Sunday, you use an air fryer for what, 15 minutes? So 25%, that's like a quarter of the power. So 2,000 watt power station is 500 watts. 500 watts, I'm getting in 250 from solar. Well, right now I'm getting 27 because the sun is kind of towards the front of my house. 27. I'm using 91. I'm getting in 250. I just had to put my panels in series. I'm sure I recorded a video about that. I have so many videos, guys. So many videos. Um, you're getting in 250, 260 watts of solar using 500 watts, which realistically, for that short amount of time, I guess what I'm getting at is just that, it's fine to use that air fryer. It's really easy. The microwave is the same thing. No matter how much that microwave uses, it's only using it for a few minutes, few moments realistically. So if a microwave uses 1,000 watts, and I'm not even gonna try and get into math because that is not my strong suit on the fly. Everything in my house currently is on the transfer switch, but my stove, and my son uses it a lot to cook ramen noodles on the stove. You definitely should get him an induction plate. Y'all should go half on it just for the sake of, like, actually, I bought that induction stovetop burner. You should get one. I want to stress that really hard. I bought that induction joint, and then I started seeing them on the marketplace about six months later or something like that, for like a little bit cheaper. I saw the exact one that I have, and I'm just like, dang it. But it's all good. So check your marketplace to see if you could find an induction joint, and then you could put that dip on a power station, and you don't have to use your main stove. I don't know how much power a main stove uses. What I should say is I looked it up once, but I don't know if they were calculating for all the totality of what the stove can use, or if it was for what an individual eye uses. I wonder how much power an individual eye uses versus an induction plug-in joint. It's the better way to go, 28 volt or 48 volt, but I'm piecemealing the system right now. And when I get enough battery capacity built up, I'll upgrade to 24. I got you. And then you responded to that. That's interesting. Oh, you responded to something else. So you're paying a bill to finance EcoFlows in lieu of a power bill. At what year loan? Is he financing it? I wonder. Hmm. The new update helped with the fan noise, but still a lot quieter than the Delta Max 2K. I guess the older one. The new Delta 2 Max is quiet as a mouse. I saw Jason on a video as well. Very nice. Prepping on the creek. Are the batteries? Okay, yeah. I read that one. Buying 12 volt batteries one at a time, then moving to 48 volt in the future is a good way to do things. Big facts. In all honesty, it's only a hobby. It's just fun to play with, and I teach people about solar as an RV technician. I don't want to say that that's what you did, but that's good to know. He works in the RV industry. I have three 100 amp hour energy gels with two 40 amp controllers, still building up that as well, off grid shed. My energy company, DTE, based in Michigan, has an app that tells you each day what you use. It's pretty cool. It was great for managing my energy usage to keep the bills low. Facts. I agree. I wish the solar input was higher, at least 3K input with that 3600 watt output at least. Facts, right? Yeah, the recoup is a part of the problem, but a real solar system allows you to oversize your solar panels, which is much cheaper than the batteries. That's a good point. So if you have more solar than you have batteries during the day, you can go wild running appliances and have enough battery for the night when you're done cooking, doing laundry, etc., etc., etc. Except, absolutely agree. You can overpanel a power station, but only an amps input. I'm actually dealing with a scenario right now where I want to put more power into my EB120. I'm going to make a video about that as well. And I think what I want to do, because I have four 100 watt panels that are not being used, I want to sell two of them for like 100. I'm gonna try to get 100 for them. If I get 80, so be it. But I want to sell my two 100 watt panels for $80. And get rid of those because they're the bigger ones. They work just like the smaller ones, but they're the bigger ones. And then I want to keep my two smaller ones, and I'm thinking about putting those two back in series. That's what got me in trouble with the Foxdion. I forgot they were in series. I wasn't thinking at all. I'm gonna put them back in series, and I'm gonna put my Renogy Flex panels in series, and then I'm gonna connect both of those in parallel. So right now, what I would end up with is two 200 watt Renogy panels leaning up against my wall, two 200 watt flex panels laying on the ground. They're in parallel. So their difference in power input will not matter because the amps will just add. Uh, so it'll be an interesting situation because I'll have to look at the voltage, but I don't really care about voltage that much. If my voltage drops one or two joints because it's trying to equalize or lowest common denominator, it's like those panels are what, 5 amps a piece, and then they'll come down to being 10 amps when I'm done. So if it's 17 volts by 8 amps versus 16 volts by 8 amps, it's like, I don't care. It's 8 watts. So what? If it's 2 volts droppage, it's 16 watts. So what? If it's 3 volts, it's what, 24 watts? I don't care. It's just like, that's the difference between having 2 panels in my garage not being used, or 2 panels out going into a separate power station, so I have to run more cable. It's like, I don't care. So y'all do whatever y'all want to do with y'all voltage, y'all panels and MPPT charge controller, figure it out. And then once y'all figure it out, I'm a profit. Thug life. And the interesting thing about the EV120 is it has a 10 amp input limit. So I can only do the parallel situation with these 5 amp panels. I can't put 200 watts in parallel. That's a whole nother situation I'm not going to get into, but I made a video about it. I've been making videos like crazy. That's why I was thinking about doing this like blitz, because on Patreon, like if I get 10 extra Patreon supporters, you know what I mean, I'll do a video a day. I put out a video a day on Patreon for like 7, 10, 14 days straight, and just kind of like build it like that. Because even though I think that the videos that I tend to put on Patreon, they're not like bangers, but what they are is interesting to people who like love solar and power stations. And that's not everybody. That's not everybody in this community. I think people love being independent. Some people love power stations. Some people love the idea of cutting their bill down. Some people just want to be prepared when the power goes out for a few days or a day or so. They don't want to have to deal with power outages. So to some people, the hobby is the love. And to other people, the results are what they love. So all my content that I make is not equally appealing to the mass of people who have subscribed to this channel. Right? Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. I use 2 gauge for my 2000-watt inverter. That's another reason why I wasn't crazy about getting the inverter at the time, is I don't want to figure out wiring. And then they talk about, Will Pross, I believe, talks about how the wires that comes with a lot of these things are not good. So you may want to buy some new wire. And I'm not about to go buy no wire. I'm just not into it. I'm not into creating. Let me be clear. This is as clear as I could be in a moment. I'm not into spending money to create a project that's just going to take me time and possibly more money to finish. That's why I'm not really necessarily feeling the on-grid, the grid tie situation, because then I got to buy the grid tie joint. Why am I buying grid tie when I have like 20 power stations? I may still do it, but my curiosity in this situation is not enough to push me, and my money is not loose all like that to just be spending money on something that then I have to spend more money to use, or I have to, it's a whole thing. There's a whole lot of levels to it. Not a whole lot. It's maybe like 3 or 4. Yeah, but an over-paneled EcoFlow is still not enough to use the AC at full power and also charge the battery. But if they had 1.2 times solar input, or you could use full power stuff in a day and charge. I got you. Getting 132 watts and finally up to 80% on the Delta Pro. Stayed at 50% this morning. Been heavy overcast today. You know what? I don't know if it's just my latitude, longitude, or whatever, or if I'm not perfectly angling these panels, but I have a situation where my 200-watt panels are only producing 100 watts, which is not absurd. I think it's just the strength of my sun with me being as high as I am in the States. I don't think the sun is the strongest for me. I don't know. I probably should get like a luminosity or whatever meter just so I could kind of look at how much power I'm getting from the sun. I actually may do that if it's relatively affordable. But I'll be getting like the best I've seen from my 200-watt Bouge V panel that's hooked into my EcoFlow River OG is like 135. And I don't angle it perfectly, but I feel like I've had it angled pretty good for moments in time. Because sometimes it's just flat and the sun is overhead. It's easy enough to do that. I just lay it on a little like sandcastle bucket that angles it kind of like that, and the sun is overhead, and I'm still not getting a whole lot of power. And I've noticed that cleaning panels doesn't do much. You get like an extra watt or two, unless your panels are filthy. But even then, it'll jump like 5, 6 watts maybe. I just feel like my location is not conducive to getting a whole lot of power in, and it is what it is. I really just want to use my main stove just for baking on the weekends. Anything that can't fit in the air fryer, anyways. I dig that. Um, how does baking work? Does the oven use less power than the cooktops to heat up, or is it worse to heat up? Interesting. Okay, it uses 240 volt. I can hook it up to my Blue system. Oh, I can't hook it up to my Blue system. So if anything draws power in the house, it's that and the stove. I got you. Man, the 240 problem. That's my other problem with power stations. I know they have those expensive joiner boxes, but we need more 240 single units. I agree with that. I refuse to buy two Blue AC300s to get 240. It's not that serious for me. Plus, I've read problems with that configuration in forums. That's wild. I got you when you do that. I'll help you out. I don't know what you're talking about. What are you talking about helping me out with? When I do what? The on grid stuff? The Yeah, I agree 100%. It's obvious that they are keeping the solar input low and the 120 volt only to force you to buy more stuff. You see the EcoFlow group where people buy 4 of those things because of it. Interesting. I don't know if that's why they buy 4. Jeez. Interesting. That EP900, that big old dialysis machine one that they had, that was like I think it was like just crazy expensive. Those things are so expensive. They might as well not exist to me. Um, I can kind of practically entertain some devices because me being a YouTuber and I have a certain amount of subscribers, I feel like I could kind of get into that. But I'm very utilitarian, so it's like if I can't use it, it might as well not exist to me. And I never look at it. I haven't looked at it at all. I don't know anything about it. I don't know what it does. I don't know how it works. I probably seen like a video one. But they having a battery separate makes it even worse that they don't have a 240 volt head. Interesting. Imagine Blue Eddie called ASCAP to do a review for the new EP9s. It would change his life. That would be crazy. Now, here's the interesting thing. I don't know much about it. I don't even know what you could do with it. And then I would still have a hurdle because then I have to get my panel upgraded to push power through it because I don't want to have an issue. Like I think I don't even know if I may have a 100 amp line. My panel is really old, man. It's not terribly old, but whenever I send it to anybody, they're like, "Oh, okay," because they think they know what I have when I say it's old, but then when they see it, they're like, "Oh, okay, yeah, you got to get that switched out, fam." It's not like terribly, terribly old. I feel like I've seen some older ones. Not me personally, but like just in pictures and things like that. But it needs to be upgraded. I use USB ceiling fans. What do you mean? With small power banks to keep the rooms cool and not use my larger power banks. Interesting. You mean you use USB fans and you put them on the ceiling? Or have you found like a Chinese hookup where you have these USB power, like actual spinning ceiling fans? I imagine they're very small, but that's interesting. the results, right? You just want the power. It's like it's not the love of the stuff. It's the results. It's cool that it gets me the results. I know, right? That's very interesting. I want you to tell me more. Like John Stewart, tell me more. No, I think he does like this. I don't know why I went EcoFlow versus Blue Eddy, but I like Blue Eddy's usage of extra batteries. I agree. I like the EP900. That's possible. I don't know why you went EcoFlow instead of Blue Eddy. I don't know why. Um, that AC300, I feel like that AC300 would low key change my life. Having those two separate MPPT charge controllers with up to 1600 watts. The thing that I love about the separate charge controllers is that I was just talking about this in some capacity somewhere. I don't have to play matchy matchy. Like I have 900 watts of solar in one space. I have 600 watts of solar in another space. I could just run those right into the AC300 and then I'm good. And then I could have my little one-off situations like my Ace Volt would still have its 400-watt array. My EB120 would still have its 200-watt arrays. I would probably do something to put some panels into like the AC. So let's dream for a little bit. If I got the AC300, I could run two arrays into that. Then I could charge the Duran from it. I could charge the Alcatel from it. That leaves me with the AC200P that I could literally put, the remaining. I could probably figure out a way to put my 200-watt along with a couple like 100 watts to get that a decent amount of power. It would be interesting. It would be interesting because right now my situation is such as I get better power stations, it pushes some power stations kind of down onto the periphery. Now the EV120 is kind of on the periphery, is not a mainstay. The EV120 has kind of very rarely been a mainstay since I got the Alcatel or the Ace Fold. They kind of pushed that one out, and I'm running into an issue where I can't really do much to what's the word, consolidate my panels the way that I want to. I ran into an issue with an Anderson cable melting. That video is coming soon, and I suspect that it's because of the amp load that I was pushing through it, because I had two panels in parallel, some two 200-watt panels in parallel. So I'm a little cautious to put my two 300s, which are 10 amp panels, in parallel into my Duran, because what I'm entertaining doing, I'm not saying I want to do it, but I like less cables. I've been entertaining putting those in parallel, the two 300-watt Hyundai panels into parallel into the Duran, which would take one panel off of the Pecron, which is fine. The Pecron is a monster, but it's only 614 watt hours. It's perfect for somebody who has like 2 or 3 power stations, because then that thing is a monster. You get that power in and then you could use it. Like, it's not my mainstay power station. If it was my mainstay power station, that thing would be perfect in some situations, you know what I mean? Because then you could get that power in and you don't need the large watt hour capacity, because you're always using the power is coming in and going right out. But in a situation where it is right now, it's like it's my it's my 5th panel array. It's like I have to intentionally power dump, which is not lost on me. I've been power dumping my whole solar, the majority of my solar endeavors have been involving power dumping. But it's an interesting kind of situation where I don't know if I feel comfortable throwing 20 amps through a 10 gauge cable at 50 feet. And I need to go to, that's one thing that's on my task list. I need to go to Renogy and look and see what they suggest. Because I don't know. I mean, I think they make 8 gauge cables, but at 50 foot, that'd probably be like $100 some odd dollars. I don't know. All right, let's see. Sure. USB ceiling fan. I don't know any USB spec that could move a ceiling fan. I'm waiting for Byron to chime in. You need to enlighten us. My worst problem with Blue Eddy and 90% of the power stations out there is the VOC Max. I hate that 150 Max. The EP900, EB900 would change that. What's the max on it? I mean, I could look it up, but if you know it, just rattle it out to us. 5-volt ceiling fans. I gotta look into this, man. This is Byron, man. It's like you and what's the other guy's? He changed his name. That's the only reason. Joe Trot. His name is Practical Gadgeteer. He changed it. The tinkering and the USB stuff, man. Let's see. I'm going to the Jeff Bezos land. Dang, I put in USB ceiling fan and holy moly. Mommy had to throw it away. It had some weird stuff kind of happening with it.
Daddy, can I have a fruit pack?
Yes, son. Holy moly. USB ceiling fans. This is bananas. Let me see if I can get a couple joints up to you guys. Give me 1 second. Let's see here. Oh, my gosh. Get that out of the screen. There's a setting in chat where if you pull a comment up, it'll move I guess I should be up here. It'll move the screen up. I don't want to turn that on, but I may try it because sometimes I leave the comments up. Oh, I don't want to do that. Let's do it. Present. Share screen. Window. Amazizzle. Oh, look at that. That's crazy. 6.7 inches. Full diameter. 17 inches. This is interesting. I guess it has I don't have any ceiling hooks where that will really work, because otherwise I would hang these little light bulbs from the ceiling because they will produce better power. That's bananas. I feel like I need a walkthrough of your house, Byron, because this is interesting. Here's another one with a remote control. Where could this practically work in a normal person's house that could already have a ceiling fan? I guess you could hang it off of that little string hook, but I feel like the centrifugal force or whatever would cause it to like shake and waver. Who knew? Oh my gosh. Can you tell us, Byron, this would be a good video idea, your favorite 5-volt gadgets. That would be cool to know. Let's see. Google your home address. They have an app that will tell you how much solar your house will receive. Okay. Okay, I could do that. Maybe I could. Yeah. What do you mean? Can you explain that to me a little bit? Like, is it just as legit as like just Googling your home address? Like just into Google, and are you saying, like, help me out there? Do you literally mean what you're saying? It's hard to stay under 150 VOC. I have a 6S2P on the Renogy 100s and cringe when there's cloud effect. Interesting. Yeah, I know, right? I looked at the USB ceiling fan. It looks like some Chinesian. You should do a video review, as I would be amazed to see such a fan move enough air to feel on the ground. That is a fair point. My little USB fan is about 3 feet away from me, and it works pretty good. It's enough to like just feel something, but from ceiling to floor, that's a valid point. Or ceiling to person, like ceiling to couch and stuff like that, that's probably more like 5. That's interesting. Very interesting. The EP900 is both grid tie and off grid. The only thing I hate about it is you need an app to run it. That's just trash. The All Powers R600, you low key need an account, not just an account in a device. It's like an account with like, oh, where's my phone? I got like 8 of them. Let me see if I can show you guys what I'm talking about. I am offline. Why would I be offline, fam? It's Bluetooth, so it shouldn't matter. I can't believe all powers. My device stopped working, so they're gonna send me another one. Where's the freaking app at? Okay, all powers. It allows you to do stuff in the app, right? And then when you try to go into settings, it tells you like, hey, buddy, can you get this account, please? I don't even think I could show it because the device is not. It's right. It's actually sitting right here. It stopped working on me though. The All Powers R600. That thing is really impressive. It's probably the best $300 power station out there, and I'm surprised nobody has made a video on it. I have a new video strategy where I would make a video on it, but there's one for sale locally too. I think I was gonna try and buy that one because if I spent the whatever, then I wouldn't have to do a video. Yeah, I can't get this to turn on. I think it's probably just died from the power that it had in it because I used to be able to connect to it even though it wasn't working anymore, which was weird. Yeah, it can't find the device anymore. It used to find it. But once you tried to go into settings, it would say, dude, you need an account. And it was like, okay, you need to add a WeChat, a Facebook, a Google, or like an Amazon. Don't quote me on that. But there was no like local option to just create, like give them an email address, create a password to log into it. There was like, we need you to add another account to this app to be able to control your device. I think that's bananas. Now, I'm a very cautious person in what I communicate when necessary. I haven't looked at the app in a while, so I'm gonna just say don't quote me on that. But I'm pretty sure that that's how that went down. I've seen small fans, ceiling fans you can screw into a regular light. That's interesting too. You put in a light fixture. A ceiling fan you can put into a light bulb fixture. That's interesting. I would totally use a USB ceiling fan in my shed. Yeah, I dig that. Especially like I thought about using USB fans on the AC 200p because I get this kind of weird smell from it from time to time. The device doesn't seem hot from its internal temperature monitor, but the smell concerns me. I talked to Jason Noy and Setite about this. I thought about using a fan on it just to kind of keep air moving to make sure nothing crazy happens. That kind of that rings in the back of my mind sometimes. I'm mindful of that. Granted, it's lipo. Lipo doesn't have crazy reactions, but I saw that video by 808 Paradise or whatever his channel name is, where his friend had a Battleborn battery, for all intents and purposes, explode. Did y'all see that video? He took it down because his friend asked him to take it down because Battleborn asked his friend to take it down. So it was a whole thing. And he took it down, which I respect. You know, I mean, it wasn't his battery. It wasn't his call to make. He was just trying to get ideas and help for his friend. Battleborn reached out to him to make the situation right. And he was like, Battleborn asked him to take it down and he wanted him to take it down. So he took it down, which I understand completely. Okay, it's 500 volts max. Nice. Nice. Oh, you can run streams of 10K. But I think there's a 100 volt minimum. Oh, interesting to start it up. That is interesting. I remember Will was doing, I was watching one of his older videos, Solar Will, and he was talking about how you had to, some things, one of those all-in-one systems needed a working voltage of a certain thing. Not just the open circuit voltage, but the voltage that comes in after it starts to pull power. It's an interesting dynamic kind of dealing with that stuff. A small screw hook. I guess my thing is like I'm worried about the spin. Wouldn't the spin, if you have it off, just slightly cause the fan to start to rock? Does that matter? I guess if the fan is all over the place and it's still blowing air, it's fine. I don't know. Okay, Jojo. Okay, Jojo. I tried that app. My house is outside the area, so it won't tell me. What app? Did I miss something? The Google? Does Google have an app? Okay, on the AC200, you can do 1200 watts on each controller. I thought it was 1600. Maybe it is 1200. Interesting. Either way, it works for me. The minimum watt it'll run is 50 volts. Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know the Delta Pro had a minimum. Wait, the minimum wattage that it'll run is 50 volts from 50 watts from solar. Okay, I think it's like a 200 volt minimum because of the solar program it in it. It's like 200 watts of solar startup. Okay, oh, that almost makes sense, but I don't want to stop there. We use those USB ceiling fans on our pop-up tents when barbecuing or camping in the summer. Yeah, that's smart. That's smart. I guess you would. The only thing is you just have to run the cable kind of out of the way. Obviously, um, I love USB fans, but USB fans on the ceiling is impractical for me. I don't have a life scenario where I need that. I just can't think of one. They say how much solar your roof can get. That's what I was thinking. I hate relying on apps. Yeah, relying on them, I dig it. But apps, I love having applications to connect. Wi-Fi, I love that the new EcoFlow has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. The reason why I like it is because it has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, and because sometimes I don't manage my solar stuff well. When my internet was on there, when my internet was on the what is it? The EcoFlow River Max 2, River 2 Max, and my internet went down, if I was here, I could just Bluetooth into my smart, uh, what's this thing called? I want to call it Casa because that's the most notable name. I don't have one around here. I have one around here, but something's plugged into it. Smart things, something things. Uh, I can Bluetooth into that to turn AC power on into the EcoFlow. And then once the EcoFlow has power, I can Bluetooth into that and then turn the AC on to give internet connectivity. So having that Bluetooth like offline connectivity is really cool because both of those devices can use Bluetooth. My bed is like near the joint, so it works. So I don't have to get up out of bed to turn the internet back on when I kind of mismanage my power. Pretty cool. The EcoFlow Max 2, the fan has disappointed me on that one. I know somebody said they replaced the fan, but I'm not going to do that. I'm probably going to have to figure something out in my zone one because I don't think I'm going to put that River 2 back in there. I wish they released the firmware to help with the fan like the original River has. And oddly enough, I had a situation with that device where um, because I was powering that other power station, the LumaPal, which can take in 150 watts, I also did some things with some other power stations that use about 200. When I start getting up to like 200 watts of power output, the device started to get hot. And I actually did have the device overheat once because I think I was charging it and discharging it, and it was a lot. So when that happened, I went in and I changed the fan setting whenever I was doing that much power going out of it. I changed the fan setting so that it would be the higher fan speed, and it helped to keep it cooler longer. I didn't mess around with it for too long because it was a matter of necessity in the moment. I don't know what I was doing, if I was charging like 2 power stations or something like that to power dump, but it was getting pretty hot and it overheated. So the ability to change the fan speed in the app on that one is clutch because I actually needed to turn it back on. But I don't know. I don't have the device anymore. I haven't had it for a while. Um, hey guys, that's unnecessary. Just enjoy the video. Especially, I just mean with Daddy being on a live stream, it's a bit much. Hopefully, I made the point there. All right, let's see. 5 feet in the air, 6 feet wide air it covers. Interesting. Anybody checked out Temu for solar accessories? No, I'm not checking out Temu just off of principle for some reason. I'm quick on some things but slow on a lot of other things. Temu is something I'm not into. And then I feel like by the time I get into it, it's just gonna be a normal app that's gonna be charging you normal prices. My wife has looked into it for other stuff, but yeah, I'm not there. 16 R600 is awesome. Takes something like 50, I think it's 60 volts of solar, and that thing is a little monster. It's just like the Pecron. It's another device that if you're gonna use it, it's incredible. It's the same reason why I bought the original EcoFlow in the first place, because it had that ability to take in that 200 watts of solar, even though the watt hour capacity was really low, which was perfect to me because when I started out, and much like all of us, we're still dealing with the same kind of situation. Battery storage was expensive, and I didn't care about battery storage. I just wanted to power stuff. So that thing it's crazy loud though. That fan it's obnoxious. It's just like the EcoFlow River Max. It's worse in some ways, I think. It kind of reminds me of my Rock Pals 500, which fan is terrible. I have a short coming about that, just as a contribution to the culture, because it ain't gonna necessarily give me a ton of views or anything like that. Not that that's what I care about, but what I care about is the contribution to the culture. So people know, because what happens, and that's the whole reason why I don't necessarily discriminate against what videos I'll make, because under the right circumstances, any power station can be useful. If it provides you electricity and that your lights are out, who cares? I mean, quirks and all of that, it is what it is. But if it provides you electricity, most power stations are useful. So under the right circumstances, which I did, I got it under the right circumstances. I got 500 watt hours of non-LFP storage for a good price, and that's a good power dump for me. But the fan is loud, so and once you get over 40 volts. Once you get over 40 watts of usage in or out, that fan blares up, and it's the real deal. I kind of feel interest. I feel like privileged in a way to like have an issue with like the Go Labs fan that would just kind of like hum every few minutes or so, and I'm just like, I wish the EcoFlow just hummed every few minutes or so. Don't get me wrong, it would still annoy me, but the EcoFlow fan annoys me more. Man, fun times. All right, let's see. The one thing I hate about the AC200P is a 35 volt startup. That's fair, which means you can't use one small panel. That's fair. I get it. To me, the downside for me is you can't use one 200 watt 12 volt panel. That's the real pain. But if you got an AC 200P, in my opinion, you have no business really having one 100 watt panel. I know that's reality for some people, but typically you won't have one 100 watt panel for long if you spent $1,700 on a power station, $1,300 on a power station. Now, if you got it refurbished on that refurbished stint and you spent like 700, it's like, okay. But for the most part, most people have at least two panels. That solar greed is real. It's real for us all. And a 100 watt panel, man, I saw a poly panel from, I think, HQST. It was like $60 or something like that. It was poly, which is fine. I was like, wow. It was on a coupon. I was looking, because I have these like points from my job. I think I have like $150 worth for like just recognition and things like that. So I was like, what can I buy that would be cool to spend that money on? I thought about getting a 75-foot extension cord. They're about $50 to $60, which I think would be cool in a power outage. And that's something that is kind of like you buy it and then you won't need to worry about returning it, because I don't want to buy anything that I have to return or anything. So I was trying to be strategic about it. So I was looking through my cart, my save for later, and I was like, Then I wondered what panels are on sale, because if a Bourgeois V panel was on sale, like a 180, for like 135, something like that, I may have pulled the trigger. I think I would have talked myself out of it because I got a 300-watt panel for around that price. But I may have pulled the trigger because I mean it's not money I had to use, it's money of this house money basically. Right, you can use a 200-watt panel that's 24 volts, but then that's the problem, right? Because if you got our original power station, the EB3A, the EB70, the EcoFlow OG, Max or Pro, then that 24-volt 200-watt panel can only be used on your AC 200p. I like versatility, I like flexibility. I thought I entertained the idea, but yeah, I'm not. I don't see a reasonable situation to buy a 24-volt 200-watt panel. That just seems like an anomaly that exists for in a very niche situation. I don't see a whole lot of application for that. I just don't. All right, all right, all right. Speaking of Bluetooth, I have a USB light hooked up to my AC 300. I wake up every day by turning the DC function on from my phone without getting up from the bed. It's convenient. I dig that 100%. That's my kind of functionality. Having Bluetooth connectivity, I talked about this last time. I just started using TeamViewer recently to be able to control my EB3A, and then my R600 died. Let me get this comment off the page. My R600 died, so I only have one Bluetooth device, but I used it while traveling. It's in my solar while on vacation video that I talked about that and a few other things. It's a cool video. It's a live stream. It's not just a video. It's not a video about it. Okay. I think I looked at Sun Gold Power. You may have even mentioned it to me, but I wasn't blown away by the prices. The prices were kind of like normal, and then you still have to pay shipping, and then that's a whole thing. But if you're in the process of like if you're in a space where you could buy 10 panels to make that shipping cost work, then yeah, I dig it 100%. But if you're gonna buy like 5, 6 panels, it kind of just equated to the same thing for me. I don't remember the details that came away with, but I just remember coming away feeling like it's not fantastic. But I'm gonna keep that comment in mind, and I'm gonna check there again to see what's what. Because like I said in one of my other live streams, the 300-watt panels were cool, they were affordable, but they're not perfect for me. Perfect situation is a 400-watt panel because then I could take and put 800 watts on the AC 200p with 2 panels, and then I could put 400 watts on my Ace Volt right here, move 2 panels out of the way. That makes me be able to move that panel when I need to, which is probably going to be interesting for winter. Winter is going to be a whole new situation. I imagine every summer and winter for me is always going to be interesting as my devices get upgraded, which is why I felt like a YouTube channel was perfect because I'm so into solar. I don't think I'll ever be able to run out of content to make because I love solar. I love power stations. I love powering stuff from the sun. I think I would still do some of this stuff even if I had like the transfer switch and all that jazz. I would still do it. I'm sure I would, which is why I give stuff away because I know that I would use stuff if I still have it. All right, y'all. I'm gonna get up out of here. This has been wonderful. Oh, I have an ask for you guys. Can you help me out if you feel so inclined that when you watch videos, even if you're not interested in a video, play it anyway? If you are interested in a video, play it twice. Be able to get those views up, would send better signals to YouTube. I'm sure the algorithm is smart enough to know what's happening there. But just to be honest with you, these companies don't. In terms of like, it's just numbers for them. They can't really tell the back end. But that would be nice. I heard someone say, as it relates to shorts, uh, if you watch a short 3 times, you can make it go viral. So that's another encouragement. I do stuff like that for people's channels. Jason Noy sometimes make videos I'm not necessarily interested in. Like I didn't care about his chicken coop video. It was nice to see his family and stuff like that. So I watched it. So I play people's videos just to kind of support them and what they have going on. So I'm not asking you guys to do something that is foreign to me, but it's cool. I feel like you guys are like the core group. This 40 to 60, whatever people, or the 200, I'm sorry, 200, the 500 or so, 700 or so people who actually watch the live stream. You guys are the core group. And if you could do that, that'd be great. If you don't, it's still cool. It's all good. All right. Y'all be beautiful. I'm going to get up out of here.